All right, on this episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast, we have a very special episode. We interview Danny Navarro, the travel football guy from TikTok, Instagram, and all kinds of social media. He's a great guy who his main goal is to make sure you have a great experience to wherever you want to go and watch football, especially the World Cup.
The World Cup. He loves the international game, the country versus country, and he gives us his take on how to do that.
All right, another episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Goebel, joined by
Tyler.
and a very special guest, Danny Navarro. Is that what, am I saying that right?
Yeah, you're saying it correct.
Okay. You never know. I never know. I'm
No, it's
old.
all about the it's all
I'm
about rolling
ancient.
the R's.
Yeah. Navarro. Did I get that right? Is that better?
Yeah,
Hey,
there you
muy
go.
bien, Brett.
There
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go.
And
Ándale, let's go.
in all of my stalking, I mean, research, I believe you are Colombian.
That
Is
is
that,
correct.
that
Yeah,
is
that is
correct. So,
correct.
hey,
My family's from Colombia, and basically I'm the first gen here in the States.
oh, well,
Nice.
welcome. Congratulations and welcome.
Yeah, we love to
Thank
have
you.
Colombians on our team. We've had quite a few in Real Salt Lake's history. So,
Yeah.
Wasn't there a recent one that kind of didn't work out?
ooh, Brian Vera, he worked out. He's just
Uh,
in Montreal now, choking people out. It's not a big deal.
Where did Chicho? Where's he from?
yeah, I was gonna say Chicho.
Yeah,
Yeah, Chicho's
Chicho
Colombian
too.
too. Yeah, Chicho's
Yeah.
around. Yeah, it's Colombian too.
Yeah, that worked out really well for like 6 months, and then it didn't. So,
Crash it.
Danny,
Yeah, of
we can't thank you enough. We know for joining us. You are
course.
everybody probably knows you. You're a travel football fan on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and what is your goal besides world domination for soccer? What is it you do? How would you introduce yourself to fans of RSL Random Fan Podcast?
Yeah, so there's this Instagram channel where is football, and they introduced me as a football travel expert, and I think that is fitting for what I wanted to do. Really, originally with my content was to help fans travel, specifically this World Cup, because we were coming off from a Disney World type of World Cup in terms of geography, right? Could cover pretty much everything within 2 hours to this continental World Cup that we're having this summer. And so that was really the purpose, be a travel advisor to a bunch of people. Of course, the content and everything surrounding it has evolved since, but that's basically how I would introduce myself as a football travel expert.
So what is your basic? Let me ask you this. Let me go back real quick. I like to ask this question because I'm always interested in the response. But are you a soccer fan?
Yes. But funny enough, not so much about clubs. I mean, I follow the Sounders, Miami, just because I'm from Miami, they've always has kind of like a special place in my heart in that respect. But I'm more of a fan of the of the international scene. And so Colombia, like that was my first soccer memory, was seeing the Colombia 5-0 demolition derby that we did in Buenos Aires in the 93 World Cup qualifiers as a little kid. That was my first memory of a soccer game, not, Real Barcelona, not, any of these other club derbies or anything like that. So I am a fan. Just, please sign me up for like Uzbekistan, and the Asian World Cup qualifiers. Please sign me up for like, I was in Albania doing an election observation mission a couple of years ago over there, and I got to walk past their national stadium. Too bad I couldn't go inside, but it was like, wow, this is amazing. That's the type of football that enjoy the most.
Yeah, yeah, we got special love for the Albanians here. If you know the sign on the flag, the big
Yeah,
eagle. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, that's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, Albania and Shaka, Granit Xhaka's from there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Back when they didn't have a national team. So we played
That's
for
right.
Switzerland. But
Too bad they couldn't make it this World Cup. I know they were kind of close. So I mean, there's a lot of a lot of these like underdog stories that are like they're about to make
yeah,
it through.
they're an up
So
and coming nation, right?
yep,
It's something to watch out for. I
yeah.
always loved the international game too. I went on a mission down to Chile in
Hmm.
93, 94, 94, 95. So I was there during the World Cup. Chile
Okay.
wasn't even in it, and it was still chaos. It was still crazy. It was awesome. Everybody was into it. Everybody was talking about it. I was like, we didn't even make the World Cup here, and we're still like, everybody's all in on this. It was
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fascinating. That's why I like that question because I'm always surprised at what the answer is. You think it'd be, oh yeah, I'm a soccer fan and this is my team, but you said you're not team centric, but is there anything besides the Sounders? Didn't really like to hear that, but is there, do you have any like
So
fond memories or anything drew? I mean, you're back east. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
where
So
do
I
you
mean,
watch MLS games?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, now I live in DC, so I mean, I always go, every once in a while to a DC United game here as well. I've been living here for over 10 years, and that was always a great networking opportunity, trying to build yourself up in your career here. Um, but the Sounders, the reason why I started with them was because back when I finished working at the Obama presidential campaign in 2012 in Miami, I spent so much of my time playing FIFA because I was just recovering from insomnia and effect was staying up all those late nights. And so what I would do is I picked up the Sounders Xbox jersey that I could customize on my ultimate team. And I would play that against the world, people from around the world because I wanted to troll, like, ha, you got beat by an MLS team, psych, right? And
Yeah.
so that connected me with the Sounders. And then my wife, who I met like years later here in DC, is from Seattle. So kind of just worked out that, I would be a Sounders fan.
Nice. Nice.
Well, we do
Well,
have the Sounders number when they come to Salt Lake, but
yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's the playoffs, that might be that's been a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. So what kind of inspired your vision here with having the Intercontinental Cup and how to get around and it is a little chaotic, isn't it?
Yeah, so I mean, so funny enough with the Sounders, I know one of the first trips that I took post 2022 World Cup was following the Sounders over to Morocco when we were playing the old version of the Club World Cup. I just at the time I was unemployed and I just was thinking, okay, like if I'm gonna make something out of this, right? I had already gotten people's attention with the planning ahead, right, of the 4 years, but I needed something to hold me down, right? Like to prove my chops, as you will. And so I decided, well, let me go ahead and make it out to Morocco for the Sounders, and that was a very historic moment for not only the Sounders but as a league, right? The fact that we got this representation abroad. And so what I did was then is obviously add the travel part of it and use my points and miles, flew premium economy, kind of did it a more bougie experience to get to Morocco at least and then showed fans, okay, I had a little bit of a bougie experience, but then I used all these other tools to save me money. The hotel in Tangier only cost me like $80, but that's because I was using other websites. Like pretty much show folks like you can plan yourself a trip to see soccer games abroad. It doesn't have to be the fancy trip that I did for Qatar, which was business class on Emirates. Had the lie flat fee, like
Nice.
luxury, right? So I can do luxury travel and I can also do, all right, let's write it out economy 9 hours to go see these types of games. And so that was pretty much um what then continued this interest of like, oh, this guy knows how to travel around the world. He's gone around the world to see these different competitions and whatnot, and he's not breaking the bank. There's something there to it, right? What can we do? What can we learn from this? Which was good momentum going into coming back to the States for Copa America, for the Club World Cup, and then now for the summer.
So
Very
what are
cool.
you sounds like you've been all over the world doing this, which is very enviable.
Brent wants to go with you next time.
Yeah,
Take
right.
him
Yeah,
with you.
next time, where's been your favorite spot? Have you gone to? I'm gonna guess you've been to Premier League games or EFL games or.
No, I haven't actually. Funny enough, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not even been to London. I've been to what is this? To Glasgow, recently because I became part owner of the Caledonian Braves. When they launched that initiative a couple of years ago, and I actually got to see the stadium and everything. So that's a pretty fun project that I decided to get myself involved in. But no, never been to a Premier League game, even though I'm a fan of Tottenham.
Oh.
Dear, yeah, yeah, oh, yeah, oh.
How was your day today?
Um, hmm.
Stressful?
Look, I didn't even watch the game. I'm like at this point, I've accepted my fate, and it's like if the arrows land on me, then so be it. If they land around us, then so be it. At this point, it is what it is, right? But funny enough, I followed Spurs because of two players, Gareth Bale, that game at San Siro, and then when Dempsey moved from Fulham to Spurs, that kind of just made like, all right, Dempsey's my favorite player in the USMNT in its history. So that's why I'm a Spurs fan in that respect. But um, that yeah, that's pretty much like going around the world. If you're asking about like favorite place to watch a game, I mean, wow, that's a good question. I mean, at the end of the day, Qatar was my first World Cup, right? But going to Lumen Field, you know, I know you guys are from El Saleh, but like, I mean, that was a really amazing experience to see. I would say I guess you could say a more quote unquote American soccer experience, or like not as much influenced by Latino soccer culture or other, immigrant culture. I would say that was a very unique experience in the Pacific Northwest, and that's that I haven't been to Portland, and I've seen it on television. Portland has it appears to have a very great culture there too, with soccer, and so does Vancouver. But like when going to Seattle, it's just kind of like, oh, this felt awesome in that respect. So like, yeah, I'll have to be a homer on that one and say Seattle for that specific reason, right? But I mean, the trip, like I said, the trip that I took to Morocco was fascinating. Because then all the Moroccans, all the locals were like very surprised that there was all of these Americans of different shades and whatnot, but they were very surprised, like, you guys like some like there was this very surprising clash of cultures, which is really what it's supposed to be about, right? But yeah, and then of course on the national side, when I got to make the pilgrimage to go to Barranquilla to go see Colombia play against Peru in the World Cup qualifiers, that was very special too. As pretty much as a of the part of the Colombian diaspora to be able to go back and see the national team play. Granted, that was only a 0-0, very tense game. We still hadn't clinched qualification. It was kind of one of those like, maybe I should have gone to the Nets one when they beat Bolivia 3-0 and celebrated. Maybe I should have gone to that one, but it was still very special in that respect.
Yeah, tears might have been flowing, right?
Yeah. Yeah, a few insults, and
Yeah,
it was
like I
it was
said, I was doing my research. Maybe I was talking, but
nah, I mean, no, it was also what is this on that game for Colombia Peru. I mean, it was an afternoon game too, so it was hot, and then you still didn't win the game. It was just a little bit tense at that point.
Now, since we're on this topic, Danny, I really got to ask you. I get a lot of people because I'm white. I don't know if you can tell, pretty pasty here, but I
oh,
love the Latino culture. But
Yeah,
I don't love when people come to the States or they're born in the States and then they pick Mexico over the US. And they say it's a race thing. I don't love that. It's not my favorite thing. Like,
right, right,
hey, we're all here. Let's all be American now. Like, I mean, I cheer for the Welsh team, but like,
well,
they're
they're
my fifth
white,
national
Tyler.
team. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're not my first national team. My first national team
right,
is
right.
the Stars and the Stripes. And I feel like it should be, but I understand you may have a different take on that. What's your kind of take on that?
Yeah, so I think it's one of those things where like when Colombia played the US here in DC back in 24 right before Copa America, I cheered for Colombia. Like and the reason behind that is that is where my blood is from. That's where my culture is from. That's literally my entire family tree is over there. Like I'm literally like the seed that just ended up here in that respect. So yes, I'm planting new roots in that respect. My daughter is basically born here in the States, but she has this Colombian and Mexican heritage with her that she'll carry on with, and we'll cultivate that for her and everything. Um, it's not so much that people cheer against the US as much as it is, yeah, we'll cheer for the U.S. because we're here. This is our home, right? I know there's always been an effort by U.S. soccer to be like, this is everyone's team, right? El equipo de todos, they'll say in Spanish.
Right,
But
right.
then when it comes to like then picking the culture versus the U.S., then it's like kind of like, well, we're not cheering against it. We're just cheering for our culture, right? But then I think there's also this misunderstanding that then we don't know the American players, or we don't appreciate the way that I would say more maybe not so much this edition of this team of the USMNT, but probably the previous ones, I think there was a bit more, at least I would, in my honest opinion, more respect towards that national team because you had a lot more dogs in that team. I mean, the fact that Diego Luna, for example, is I would say if there's one player that's going to make me want to be hyped about the USMNT, it would be him because he is a dog. Like he
Yeah.
just he reminds me of Dempsey, and that's why I love the USMT because it'll be Dempsey, um,
Well, and
Beck.
Dempsey, I don't know if you watched the special on that one. You don't know where I'm from, dog. Have you
Yeah,
seen that
exactly.
special? Oh, it's so good,
Right.
right?
And so,
Yeah.
but
And
you had other,
he talks about the culture of he dove in with all the Mexican teams and started playing with them
yeah,
because that's who was playing soccer at the time, right?
exactly. And so then, but then you have all these other players in the USMNT's history that in a lot of ways, I would say all the Latino cultures and here in the States appreciate those players like a Brian McBride or Jermaine Jones because those guys were dogs. Like it didn't matter. Then McBride had like broke his head or something. Like he was playing and like they still wanted to keep playing. Like they appreciate that type of
Wrap the head
dog
up,
mentality.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the header, right? So that's what I'm
Kyle
saying.
Beckerman.
Yeah, Beckerman, right. All
Yeah.
these players were just fighters. And I think I think something that the USMNT should bring back. I don't know where it's been. In my opinion, that it's not really as present as it was in previous editions of the USMNT. So,
Yeah,
Yeah. And our
yeah,
coach too, Pablo Mastroeni, he made the World Cup because he was a dog, right?
twice.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it is an interesting. This U.S. men's national team is really interesting. It's an interesting generation that isn't like the previous ones. Like you're talking about, there are no dogs because maybe they had it not too easy, but their soccer journey is totally different than
yeah,
the Dempseys, the Landon
yeah. No,
Donovans.
and it's definitely
It's
different, right?
fascinating to me
Yeah,
to watch.
yeah. No, absolutely. It's definitely different. And I think that now that they see European successes maybe perhaps higher than than success in the men's national team, I think that's where then the quality begins to struggle. Mind you, this isn't just a USMNT problem. You're seeing this in, I would say, all throughout Latin America too. The Mexican
Italy,
national team,
Italy, right?
right? I mean, you're seeing a lot of those struggles with a lot of the national teams that they're beginning to prioritize their club career, their club success, as opposed to the national teams. And I point to Latin America because if you look right now, right, Mexico, this is not the Mexican team that would fight against the USMNT back in the 2000s. That would be very, very fierce battles that they would be fighting. Brazil, for example, that's not my college year Brazil. Like that Brazil would not lose a World Cup qualifier. The fact that they lost six this turnaround, that's insane. That is unheard of for that team, right? For that pedigree that they have. So I do think a lot of that is because a lot of their players are going perhaps to Europe maybe too soon. They're losing a little bit of those identities from over here. The Brazilians, maybe a little bit more flair, a little bit more creativity there. The US maybe a little bit more of a dog mentality because you got to fight to prove your way up there, and then you kind of add those idiosyncrasies with all the other national teams. You probably would have better teams if they weren't all just racing to go to Europe so quickly. But nor here nor there.
Well, let's talk about this World Cup. Your thoughts on this World Cup? I know you don't have a ton of time. We want to be respectful of that, but what are your thoughts on this World Cup and how it is going or
Well,
not going?
how it's going is I'm afraid a tournament that should have been a lot more than what it will probably deliver. And the fact that these three countries and then within the US, the 11 host cities, that they had all of these years to prepare for this. And yet what we're scrapping with a month to go to the start of this tournament is the price of the transit fare from point A to point B. That should have been resolved last year, if not two
Right?
years
Isn't that
before.
embarrassing?
Part of my thinking in doing Travel Football Fan was is that I would be able to provide this information to folks ahead of time, so that way they could fully plan their travel if they're coming from abroad to the US. If they're traveling within the US, then figure all that stuff out. So that's the first part. Then, of course, you have this White House. I understand, the policy of it. For your audience, I'm not sure what their leans are, but there is something to be said of if you're going to make the process of being able to visit the U.S. more difficult, then why are you hosting a World Cup, which in effect requires international tourism to boost tourism numbers and tourism dollars? It is a proven fact. The international tourists coming to a country, not just the US, but to any country, is going to spend more, is going to stay more, I should say stay longer than domestic tourists, right? So if we're just talking about dollars and cents, this needed to be a much more better organized World Cup in the sense of the transit, in the sense of tourism policy, all of these things. They needed to be hashed out years ago. And instead, what we've seen from Copa America onward is a get rich quick scheme. How can we get rich quick off Copa America, right? How quick rich can we get off the Club World Cup? And how fast can we make $11 billion off the World Cup before the lawsuits come in, before everything of anything regarding accountability comes in and puts a halt to some of these things? That
Yeah,
is, in effect, unfortunately, the concerns that I've had to bring about in the past like 18 months that I've been, focusing on this.
yeah, it's too bad.
And
It's like the U.S. soccer can't get out of their own way when it comes
That's
to
it.
a lot of this stuff too.
Well,
I
I
mean,
would
it's
argue, I would argue that U.S. soccer hasn't even gotten in the way because they've allowed FIFA to
yeah.
pretty much, for example, for the Americans, for the U.S. fans, to be forced to pay $2,000 to see your home national team at your home World Cup, that is insane. I wouldn't pay 2,000 if it was Colombia playing. I'm sure every other national fan would be like, "That's too much money." So
Well,
then, if anything, yeah, where is U.S. soccer in protecting the American sports fan in that
yeah,
respect?
it's really interesting. I know there's just this myopic point of view that Americans will just pay anything because they tend to just pay anything to go and attend some of these these big events, the Super Bowl, whatever it is.
Hmm.
And I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot. They thinking that what did uh, the FIFA guy, the world FIFA
Infantino.
Fantina talk about? Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Americans will pay $300 to go watch college football or something. It's like every game. It's like no, we don't want to pay that.
No,
And
right.
I
We
think
don't
you're
want to pay
absolutely
that.
right. Why? I was expecting it to be a lot more open and a lot more inviting for everyone. And as far as the question goes, our podcast covers all we our political spectrum on the podcast is all the way across
But
both
I wouldn't
aisles.
even say that. But I would even say the fact that President Trump, I mean, in a way, funny enough, right, throwing Infantino on the bus by saying I wouldn't even pay that price to go to the USMNT Paraguay game. I think that was a very funny moment because it's like we all agree this is too stupid expensive, right? To be doing this to the fans, right? And so that that those comments that Infantino also made is just so out of nowhere, really. Like, what do you mean we can't go see any sporting event for under $300? MLS games are way under $300. College football is, for students, when I was at school, like it was free. It was part of the tuition rate fees in that respect. But I think the other point that I wanted to make to that point to that was that they thought, like you said, the American sportsman would pay for anything, but they misread, you know, loyalty. College football, people are loyal to their college football teams more than their NFL teams, right? And so, like, that's what he failed to understand. He thought that by saying 104 Super Bowls, that everyone was going to see Cape Verde, Saudi Arabia as a Super Bowl. And it's like he insulted casual sports fans because they realized, wait a minute, what? No. And they insulted the actual soccer fans who are like, the hell are you talking about? That is not a Super Bowl. That is not even an exhibition game that would ever happen to begin with.
right. Yeah. And then Curacao and Cape Verde make the World Cup, and it's like, oh boy, here we go.
Fantastic stories, right?
Yeah.
Great. I love
Great
to cheer
stories.
for
But
love to
Jamaica
cheer for
stays
them.
home and they make it. You know what I mean? Italy doesn't make it, right? Good
right, but
stories, but
good story but I was gonna say that good story and charge $50. I'm
right.
not paying $500 to see an underdog story. I'm sorry. Like
Yeah, I'm
again,
not
this
going
is
to go to Kansas City to see it for
or New
four
York,
thousand
right? Where
dollars.
and dealing with the high hotel prices there, or
Right.
Miami that doesn't have a direct, rail connection to their stadium from downtown. You see what I mean? All of
Yeah.
these different things
But like,
really
who doesn't
affect.
want to go to Philly on the 4th of July? How cool would that be, right? Birthplace of
And
our nation, 4th
and
of
luckily
July.
me, I'm in
Let's
DC. I
go.
can just catch the Amtrak, right? I
Right.
can do that, right? But that's why for a lot of other fans, that's why we needed the time to plan. And so that's, I would say, it comes back to this whole point of like this World Cup just seems so disjointed unnecessarily. It seems like these World Cup organizing committees, some have done a better job than others, I will say that, but some just seemed much more interested in rubbing shoulders with Infantino and organizing the fan fest than to actually make it a working event that will be enjoyed by all the fans.
So we've kind of focused on all of the obvious. But let me ask you this. Where are the bright spots? Are there any bright spots? And how can fans make this the experience that they really want to, a once in a lifetime experience? Well, depending on how long you live, it's a twice in a lifetime experience for people
Yeah.
that are around for the first time. So maybe we can squeeze in a third by the time it's over for me and Tyler. But but how do fans turn this around and make it a great experience? How can you help
Yeah.
them?
No, absolutely. Look, I think speaking out is the first thing. I mean, look what happened with the tailgating. When Boston announced no tailgating, everyone basically flipped the tables. They were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then for Philadelphia to come out and say, "No, we're keeping the tailgating. Y'all can go back home if y'all want." I think that was an important moment for fans to realize we actually have power and agency. The second part of it is don't break the bank. If wait till these ticket prices drop. Like they're going to drop because FIFA has now basically put themselves in a hole of their own creation, right? By conducting this FOMO marketing, by conducting these very deceptive ticket selling processes. Wait till the very end if you can to buy the tickets cheap last minute, like literally like almost like outside the stadium type of last minute. But then third and ultimately make community, make your own community, make your own fan fest. I think this is unfortunately going to be a World Cup that is going to be enjoyed more at home and at public spaces and at bars than at the actual stadium. And in a way that's very sad because it should be also be seen on television. It should be seen as a celebration at the stadiums too. I will be going to Estadio Azteca to go see Colombia Uzbekistan. I'll be going to that game. And so far, that's the only one I have planned right now because now I'm just waiting on this strategy of last minute, see what I can pull off, and maybe hopefully go to the to one of the games in Philadelphia. The July 4th would actually be pretty cool to say the least. Um, but unfortunately, that's where we're at. We're having to, reorganize our plans. It's funny because like a couple years ago, the Wall Street Journal interviewed me and a bunch of other fans that they called the super fans. That we were planning for the World Cup with like 700 days to go, and it seems so like ridiculous, right? Almost kind of like just diabolical that we would be like spending all this time to do this. And look where we're at now. It's almost like all those plans went to smoke. But at the same time, all that planning and all that research, at least in my opinion, does give us a little bit of an advantage of like, well, now we're in plan like probably T of this entire thing, but at least we can try to make it as best of a World Cup as possible.
So how do they get to you, Danny? How do you help them connect? Are you like a travel agent or are
I'm
you
not
more
official. I'm
like,
not a travel agent, no, but I do offer. I can offer consultations right now. I mean, right now with the baby schedule, it's all over the place. But I am opening up some limited slots for travel consultations if folks not only want to learn like how to organize their trip, but also using travel points and miles because again, that's kind of like my thing, right? My whole premise of why I started Travel Football Fan. And so if they want to learn how to use points and miles to save money on this World Cup, but probably more what's going to happen is they're going to be spending a bunch of money, unfortunately, So let's figure out some ways that you can maximize some of these travel rewards credit cards to get these points. So now you can maybe go on a vacation or two after this World Cup for free or as close to free as possible. So that's my value proposition to the fans, right? Um, Help them achieve travel in whichever way they want, right? They want to go just travel around the Caribbean? Great. You want to go travel Japan? Great. Let's do that with points and miles. Let's get you there in comfort. Let's get you there in style. Or if you just want to travel nice and easy, same thing as well. So that's what I offer through my consultations. But if they just want to follow, day to day coverage of this World Cup, that's where they can follow me on my socials.
Well, we
Very
can't
cool.
thank you enough for joining us, Danny.
Of
We
course.
definitely, we definitely need to get you out to the Riots and get to a game. We can definitely hook you up and get you in to a game at the Riot for Real Salt Lake. Maybe when the Sounders show up again, maybe that'd be the key to getting you here. But also in your world travels, I have to throw a shout out to if you need to go someplace and have a fantastic experience, a fantastic EFL experience. Where should you go, Tyler? Crawley Town. Crawley
Crawley.
Town. Come on, Tyler. No, you're just doing. He's going to go Arsenal. He's an Arsenal fan. I was always going to
Oh
point out too
no.
that I came home from work and my wife was really upset because she's a Tottenham fan, and she was
At
kind of
least they didn't lose. They're not on the
no,
drop zone right now. Come
Right
on.
now,
yeah,
yeah.
they've only got Chelsea and um, Everton to
Yeah.
go, and yeah, so it's going to be a
Yeah, they'll be
dogfight.
fine.
But
They,
yeah,
they're 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 annoying teams.
if you want an authentic EFL League Two small club experience, the best place to go is Crawley Town, just
Awesome.
outside of London. They're my favorite team outside of Real Salt Lake, and
Okay. Okay.
the
I will keep that in mind.
well, no, yeah, I'm their official spokesperson for the United States. At least that's what I'm trying.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So thank you
sounds
so
great.
much for joining us, and hopefully people will reach out to you and use your vast experience and your knowledge to help them have an amazing World Cup experience this year.
Of course, of
Yep,
course.
thanks,
Thank you so
Dan.
much. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it. All right. Bye bye.